Three, two, one.
Hi.
Welcome, every.
Oh, oh, you're hosting. I'm sorry. No,
Oh, okay. No,
no, it's good.
well,
I'm used to doing that. It's good. No, go ahead. It's
this is
good.
good. That reminds me of what happened at the Grammys when you read your line from the prompter and you started with Erich Bergen.
That was
The
the
Tonys. Uh,
The Tonys. Yes, that was the Tonys. But that was a joke.
On an entertaining and emotional adventure.
Erich Bergen. Oh, and since it all starts with the words, it's certainly an honor for us to pay our respects to the writers who have crafted the thoughtful and
People didn't think that was a joke. People thought I was literally that dumb.
okay, well, I knew it was a joke.
Do you want to start the interview over again?
No, I love this start. This is the in crowd. This is Diagonal show
Yeah,
that we do with industry insiders, and there couldn't be a more insider interview to do than with Erich Bergen. Seriously,
sure.
stage, screen, and behind the scenes, everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, so you know, Eric, thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I don't see you enough all day long, so that this is good.
I
This is
guess we
good.
should get out there that we do work together frequently. Um,
We have a meeting before this, after this, and this interview is actually hurting our day of real
uh,
work.
well, well, we're calling this our lunch break.
Oh,
Is
good.
it?
We
It's
get some food.
it's still okay to take a lunch break, right?
I don't know.
Um, so Eric, I mean, the purpose of this is really this is your life. Remember that show? This
Yes,
is your
this is. Oh
this is
no.
so
Okay.
you know you have a lot of fans, and I'm one of them. Everyone at Diagonal is a big fan of Eric Bergen's, and so I mean, this is just an opportunity for us to chat with you about your pathway to where you are today. So I think like my first question for you is, your first love. I mean, yes, you've pivoted in the last year into virtual events, and we're going to get to that. But your first love is music and singing and songwriting and theater. And I was curious a bit about. I know you grew up in New York City, and you're also a big proponent of music and the arts education in school.
Yes,
So I wanted to talk to you a bit about your upbringing and how you knew you wanted to be a performer.
I grew up in New York City, as you said. I was an only child, and I grew up at a time. My parents were had both dabbled in the arts professionally to some degree. They both went to something called the Actors Institute here in New York City. More when it was. I mean, I don't know how they feel about it if they were ever really looking into it truly as like a professional, career path. But they did. I guess my I guess they both did for a minute. My dad did some auditions and had a cabaret act of his own. Um, uh, but art being both very important to their lives. As I said, they met doing something called the Mastery at the Actors Institute. They did something called Est. If there's anyone watching this that remembers something called Est, very self-help, new agey 70s, 80s thing. So they met in that world. Art was a part of our lives. My mom was an art director for catalogs and direct mail and things like that, and had worked in LA in the 70s. And part of that scene, she was an art director at Playgirl. So music and the arts and kind of rock and roll were always a part of her life. And my dad came to New York, and like I said, he was wanting to be in the theater world and the music world. He was a big Broadway fan. He didn't end up having a career in the arts per se, but he great singer, and both of them music obsessed people. And so I grew up in a house that was filled with music all the time. The vinyl collection was massive, kind of ranged from Joni Mitchell and James Taylor to um, uh, a lot of Motown and doo-wop and on my dad's side, things like that. And so I was just always around it. And both of them were kind of workaholics. They got divorced when I was 5. Dad only moved a few blocks away, so it was kind of it wasn't like some trauma or anything like that. So we were very very tight knit group, the three of us, and still are. And music was just a part of my life. And I think also when you're an only child, my mom was working a lot of the time out of the house. But I had a nanny, and I watched. There was a lot of TV watching for sure at that time, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, things of that nature. But what I discovered early on was MTV, and MTV had a massive impact on who I am to this day. I was, of course, wanted to be a performer because of watching the performers on MTV. But what I was also interested in was how was that video made? What was the set that they filmed it on? Was that in the same studio that they filmed that other thing? Like, I became the nerd very early on. It was a childhood filled with nerding out over music and entertainment at a time when music and entertainment was, I think of that period of like 85 through early 90s as like peak pop music, Michael Jackson, Madonna, MTV at its peak. I mean, it just spoke to me very, very highly. But like I said, I was interested in the running order of the songs. I was interested in who produced the record, who did the liner notes, and all of that stuff. So I was different, to say the least, but I was not just interested in being on stage. I was so interested in how it all got put together, the science and the art form of the things that the audience didn't always see, but that had a big impact on the show itself.
You said a lot in there, like your mother being an art director, because you have a really keen attention to detail in
Yeah, I
terms
know.
of design.
I'm noticing someone in the mirror back, but there's someone in the.
Well, that's why we're doing isolated records. No one will see that in post, and they won't hear anything that's happening over there.
Got it. Cool, cool, cool.
So
Yes,
your
art
attention to,
direction. Yes.
yeah, art direction, and also that workaholism may be passed down. I'm not making any judgments here, but I also have that workaholic thing. I mean, but like a lot of value from work, I think. And so for you, in terms of like wanting to maybe entertain people, becoming a goal of yours, right? I mean, what was your first acting gig? And was it acting first or was it music first?
Well, it was my first gig was more as an actor. I mean, well, my first gigs, my mom being an art director, she was an art director for the Disney Adventures magazine. I
Okay.
don't know if you remember. We're kind of in the same age range, right?
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, I'm older. Okay, fine. I'm older, Eric. Let's just tell everybody now. um, but
Yes, there was a Disney Adventures catalog. I remember my mom put me in as a model, like a child model, dressed up as Elvis when I was around 6 years old. In fact, I have a picture of it. I'm going to send it to you. You'll
oh
edit.
my gosh, we have to show that.
You're going to edit it in right now. And yeah, and that's so I was doing things like on sets from an early age. I remember I was doing an after school program where I was a performer, and there was a youth talent manager who came to see me and discovered me. And at first, my parents wouldn't let me sign, didn't want to go down that road. And then the next year, she came back and she said, "I really would like to sign your child." So we took the meeting, and I did. I signed with my manager when I was about 10 years old, and
Wow,
that's
that's early.
it was early. It was early. I mean, I don't know if it was early compared to like the Culkin family, but yeah.
Well,
I
I'm
mean,
just saying, like you knew what you wanted to do from a young age.
oh, I've been annoyingly clear on my life's path since I was 5, and I have never ever diverted from it. Yeah, it was a career of being obsessed with all things music, entertainment, and compiling it all together and how to make it presentable. Like my obsession has always been, how do I make a room full of people all feel the same thing at once? How do I collectively, you know, make everyone laugh, make everyone cry, make everyone sing along? And it's not, my passion hasn't always been for me to be the center of that attention, for me to be the person doing that up front, but also from behind the scenes. Like whatever way I can get that done has been my kind of MO.
Yeah, there's a great quote actually from you from Review Journal, and it's that when you're on stage, the show's a party, And when it's over, you don't want people to say, "Oh, Eric Bergen has the best voice, doesn't he?" Or "He's a great dancer." You want people to forget their troubles and be in a different place than when they came in.
Yeah, well, they're never going to say I'm a great dancer. I can promise.
No,
But they
actually, that's not true. I think right now we can cut to you doing the moonwalk in Vegas. I've
okay.
seen it. It's good.
Thank you so much.
And you do you're doing Michael Jackson homage moves. Am I
Yeah,
right?
that didn't age as well as I was hoping it was going to.
Well, listen.
You know, I can't be in
Okay.
I can't be in control of everything. Um, uh, yeah, I do agree with that quote still. I mean, that's the truth. The idea has always been to put together, how do we make something great that make people feel something collectively together? And it's never been, I don't ever want someone to say, oh my God, that, gotten that incredible voice. I mean, I don't have the type of singing voice that anyone is ever going to say that about. But what I do have
Not
are
true. I
necessary.
disagree. And we there's about 1,000 YouTubes out there of you, and they're great. So
Well,
we might be cut to I mean, you're great. You're an incredible singer. I mean, I don't. I think hello Broadway, national tours,
I know,
Vegas
but I don't mean
shows.
like I'm not. I don't have the Josh Groban voice. I don't have the like my tool has always been my main, I think, gift has always been to put on a show. And
Got it.
if I ended up on stage doing that, or if I ended up calling cues or designing the backdrop, it was like just any of that is fine. It truly was. I remember when I had to get like my first job, like I needed something to pay to make money during the summer in college. I got a job selling T-shirts at Broadway shows at Wicked, because my feeling was just get in the room, like just get in the building, be a part of the thing. I mean, I'm sure you went through the same thing in the TV world. It's just like I'll do whatever, just get me in the room so that I'm meeting the right people and being a part of the energy, and uh, and that was that's what I did. So I kind of take the same approach now to all the stuff that you and I have been doing. So yeah, I think that my mission has always been just put on a great show.
I I love the just get in the door thing. And some people that watch this maybe are thinking, how can I become part of the in crowd? How can I get a job in the TV and film and kind of music and entertainment industry? And I think that point of like get in the door, just cross the threshold, meet some people, and it's about those impressions that you make on
Mhm.
people that carry you to the next part of your career. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, that's what happened with me too. Like, you're absolutely right. I mean, I was an intern on some random thing, and
Right.
then they asked me back the next day. I was like, okay, great. So what was your path to kind of basically of education and music and and all that kind of thing?
You had mentioned it before about music education. I grew up going to New York City, public schools, and I was lucky enough at that time. There was a pretty good there was good music education in the schools that I had had gone to, for elementary school and things like that. There's a famous documentary, a really great documentary called Mad Hot Ballroom, that is about a guy named Pierre Dulaine, who's a Broadway and ballroom dancer. Ballroom dancer. He did one or two shows on Broadway, but a very famous ballroom dancer who created this program as an alternative to PE in schools, especially because a lot of New York City schools. I mean, my gym had two giant pillars in the middle of it, so um,
Kind of inconvenient.
kind of inconvenient, but very inconvenient for someone like me who really did not want to play anything that needed the whole court. Is court the right word?
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, and so he created this ballroom dance program as an alternative to PE. And I remember being one of his very early, maybe the first class that he was building out that program. Mad Hot Ballroom is a documentary about that whole world. Um, so there were good arts programs, there were good music programs. Played the recorder. Um, I,
As you do.
as you do, hot cross buns. I studied Suzuki violin at the Third Street Music School here in the city. And again, I was very lucky. I mean, it's New York City; it's all around you. I mean, it was everywhere you look. There was no way to escape opportunities for to either see or make art.
just what an incredible place to grow up. Like,
Oh yeah.
many people who are living in New York City are not from New York City.
Oh, well,
Uh,
listen, I had it there. If I somehow failed to have a career in this, I would have had to have worked hard to not do something in this world. There was no way for to not be a part of this. I didn't come from money or anything like that. I did know it wasn't that I had parents in the industry, in this side of the industry or anything like that. We didn't really know any people, but the New York of it all is what makes that happen. I mean, it's small enough and big enough to run in these circles, and it's been a lot of the same circle for me since I was 10 years old, which all kind of stems from I went to a summer camp called Stage Door Manor, which is a very famous theater camp up in the Catskill Mountains. And I was up there. That's where I found my everything. That was where I really discovered the theater. The first Broadway show my parents took me to was Big the musical, with a musical version of the Tom Hanks movie. But I was obsessed with it. It changed my life. I mean, it absolutely changed my life. And one of the reasons why is because the show was filled with kids my age, and I got to see them on stage. At that point, I thought I'm aiming to be Michael Jackson. I'm aiming to be a pop star. And I didn't know any other way to do it. And all of a sudden, I saw a piece of art where there were people my age performing and making an audience laugh. And I got it. And later that year, that summer, I was sent for the first time to Stage Door Manor. And I was there for 7 years of my life. Every summer,
wow.
that circle of friends that I met in the summer of '96 is to this day my core group of best friends, and many of whom I now work with in this new virtual space. That's really where I discovered my love of theater, because it was hardcore, like conservatory. Like, I mean, we had to put together full scale musicals in 3 weeks, less than 3 weeks. Like, you weren't sleeping, you were rehearsing, you were doing this other show that would go on at midnight. I mean, it was everything that you think of as like college would be for intense theater training. We were doing from the ages of 10 to 17. I remember my mom saying the first year she came up to see the shows, I was doing Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, and uh, with a star-studded cast, including Mandy Moore, um,
Wow. How
and
about that?
and she was one of those that had like an incredible voice early on. Like, her voice was formed and she was incredible. But I remember my mom saying after the opening number, she stood up and started applauding and giving a standing ovation, thinking, "That's amazing, you guys pulled that off in 3 weeks," not knowing we still had the 2 hour show to do. She thought that's what we had done in the 3 week period. We did the whole show. We learned the original Broadway choreography, the whole show, memorized lines, the songs,
Oh my
everything.
gosh.
And it was very intense. I mean, the alumni that have come out of there, Natalie Portman and Robert Downey Jr. and Ansel Elgort and uh, um, Sebastian Stan, I mean, and those are just some of the household names. I mean, it's a slew of people who are part of the entertainment industry on every side of it that are truly my family to this day.
So that camp set you up for what was going to come in kind of the aughts, if you will.
Not only that, I still think about the things that I think the thing that is in here, the reason why you do it, or when you need that extra push, when you need those moments where we go beyond work and it becomes the other thing. That still comes from my time at Stage Door. I take Stage Door uh, more seriously than I think any other part of my life, maybe even more than anything professionally. I think it was it was so important. It's where I activated, and I think it's because there were adults who were in the industry, who were artists in their own right, who gave you approval because they said they weren't trying to make you into something. They were Michael Larson, who was my main mentor. He passed a few years ago, but he was the artistic director of camp when I was there, and a very one of the biggest influences on my life. And what Michael saw with me and with many other kids, he saw the inner spark, and he tried to get that best version of you out and try to highlight what it is that you do best, not try to turn you into something else, but like if you have this gift of comedy or you have this gift of timing, like don't try to be something else. Like what is that? Like let's pull that out. And he was intense about it, and he would make you cry, and he would make you, but all for this end goal of putting on. I mean, I worked harder at summer camp than I have most professional jobs. Truly.
So after Stage Door and all of this, what was your first big break?
Um, I guess I was in college. I was in North Carolina School of the Arts. I had done 2 years and wasn't having the greatest of times there. And I was auditioning a lot back in New York City. I had an audition over the summer for the stage production of White Christmas. This is like the summer of, I guess that would be the summer of 2005. And that was my first like big show, an equity production contract, and I had a featured role playing the funny stage manager. And the reason why I got the role was because I could do a Paul Lynde impression, as you know, most 20-year-olds do. And I was 19 actually.
Cut to the Paul Lynde impression, or
Well, I
we
don't
could
think
get a
that's,
little.
I think I have to do it now.
We
It
could get a little bit of it right now.
Well, there was I played a part named Mike. What's the character's name? It's the stage manager, Mike Nolte, and the lines. He was trying to get a hold of all of the ensemble members, trying to get their attention. And so the lines were people, and so I remember reading it and thinking that should be like people, and that was what got me the job.
It's perfect.
The next summer, I didn't go back to college, and I had an audition for Jersey Boys, and I right before I left for White Christmas, I got free tickets to Jersey Boys, and full circle,
The Broadway production.
the Broadway production. And the reason
Okay.
I got free tickets was that I had a podcast right when podcasts were starting. The podcast was called Green Room Radio. And the reason why I created I created the podcast when I was in college with my best friend in school, Dylan Heffler. And we wanted free review copies of CDs, or we wanted like free DVDs or free CDs. And we started this podcast that was like an arts and entertainment podcast. This is right when
Way ahead of your time. Way ahead of
Way
your time.
this is like when podcasts weren't even on iTunes yet,
Right.
And we were nerds. I mean, Dylan and I were the ones who didn't go to the parties. We were the ones who stayed in. Well, we tried to go to the parties. We went. No one was interested in talking to us, let alone anything else. And so we came back to the dorm. We made hot cookies. We warmed up cookies, and we watched the OC. It was,
Perfect.
looking back on it, really not great.
Oh, I mean, sounds good to me.
Well, sounds good now, but not when you're that age. So,
Okay, got it.
so we started this podcast and like figuring out like what the hell's an RSS feed. I remember going through the whole thing, and I remember one day.
This goes back to you being behind the inner workings of everything.
That's right. And I remember
Mhm.
this time we put in a request for a review copy of Ben Folds' new album.
Hmm.
And it showed up. It showed up in the mail at my dorm in like not even final artwork, like it was the Sony Epic promo sleeve. It was a CDR with a press release. So it was like, holy crap, it worked. So I remember I got the 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 cherry on top was I would get free tickets to Broadway shows, and press tickets, and I got a pair of press tickets for Jersey Boys when it was either it just opened or right before opening night, and I thought, oh god, the last thing we need is another jukebox musical. I brought my dad because I thought if any, well, we loved these songs together, and all these guys, and he's a big Four Seasons fan. So I thought, all right, he'll enjoy it. It'd be a fun night out with Dad. And I left the show, and I remember saying that was one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life. And I remember texting my friend Nick, my other best friend from college, and he's like, he was like the fancy theater person. Like he would like Shakespeare and know all the dark plays. Like he was my snotty theater friend. I mean,
Hmm.
brilliant. And I always trusted him with everything, but like our tastes didn't always line up. And I remember texting him being like, "This is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life." And he's like, "Okay." And a few months later, um, I had an audition for it. And
That's amazing.
yeah,
So
right after the show,
that's a crazy story. So you see Jersey Boys and you're blown away by it,
and
and then
my dad said to me, "You could play that part." And he pointed to the part of Bob Gaudio. At that point, I was really sensitive about my height because I was tall and lanky and 6'3", and and the Danny Reichert who played the part was not that height. And I thought, oh no, that's not realizing that Bob Gaudio himself was tall, lanky, 6'3". It's just that he Bob Gaudio wasn't a famous personality. You didn't have to have someone who looked like him, unlike the Frankie Valli part. And so
Mhm.
Danny Reichert was not that. And I thought, oh, they're never going to cast me. I got an audition for it a few months later. The show had just won the Tony, had become a big hit, and was going on the road. And I auditioned for the road company, the first national tour. And I walked in on a Monday, and I remember on I had a call. They gave me a call back to come back Wednesday, and after the audition Wednesday, they said wait outside, and the director Des McAnuff came out. It gives me chills still thinking about it. He says, "Have you seen the show yet?" And I said, "Yeah, I actually saw it." And he said, "Can you come tonight and just see it again, just to just get a refresher on it?" I said, "Yeah." And I remember they had a ticket for me at the box office, and and at that second audition, Frankie Valli and Bob Gaudio were in the room. I had auditioned
Whoa.
the second.
Holy cow.
And so the audition,
That's a high pressure audition.
yes. And then that night, I went to see the show, and I went in through the stage door, and they put like a pass, and I stood in the back. And at one point, I sat on the steps that went up to the balcony, just but in the audience. And I remember at one point, Frankie Valli walked by me, and he said, "Good job today." And he kept
What?
walking. I was like, "What's happening right now?"
Wow.
And I just had this like feeling, and then and the auditions, by the way, both the first one and the callback were lengthy. Like I was in the room for a long time to the point where I knew it was going well. And they had me come back for one final callback on Friday. And when I went into that callback on Friday, I was in the room, sang the song once, did one scene as opposed to like the four scenes they had me do previously. And that's it. It was one song, one scene, and I was out. And they was like,
The-
they said, "Thank you so much. Thank you so much." I was like, I literally thought, "Oh, I blew it. I screwed it up." Because the stage manager of the show, Richard Hester, who kind of ran all things Jersey Boys, when I walked into the stage door that night to go see the show, he said to me when he handed my backstage pass to me, he said, "It's your role to lose." And I was like, and so when I went in on that Friday and had my final audition for that same whole group, I was like 18 people in the room behind the table. I thought when I was in and out like that, and it was like kind of a cold room
right.
showing no emotion, I thought, "Oh, I blew it. I lost it." And I was expecting to hear like that night, and I heard nothing. And so I waited the whole weekend, and I thought, "Oh my god, I actually blew it. I actually screwed this up." And then Monday morning they called and they said, "You got the part." And I went on tour. We
Wow.
started rehearsals that fall, uh, and we started rehearsals in September, October something, and then we left on November 17th uh, to San Francisco, and we did Tech at the Current Theater. We opened in San Francisco on December 10th of 2006. And I did the first year of the tour, which was San Francisco, 6 months in San Francisco, 3 months in LA, all up and down the West Coast. And then at the end of that year, I was offered the part to open the show in Las Vegas, to open the Las Vegas company, which was going to be the resident show at the Brand
Sure.
Palazzo Hotel, which was the sister property to the Venetian. And I packed my bags and I moved to Vegas, and I was there for 2 years.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
That is insane.
Yeah.
From you starting the podcast to getting the free tickets to being like, that show's amazing. Maybe I could be in it, and then you're literally in it.
Yeah.
For
Well,
3 years.
in
For
it,
3 years you toured. 2007 to 2009 is the Vegas, I think, and then but from 2006 to 2007 you're touring with it.
2000, basically the end of 2006 through all of '07, I was on the road, although it wasn't really the road because they were like these nice sit downs. But 2008, 2009 was Vegas.
How many shows do you think you did?
Oh my God. 8 shows a week. Uh,
Don't make me do math.
well, it's
Uh-oh.
8 shows a
I
week.
didn't mean you do the math.
Oh, 416 times 3. I'm going to say somewhere around, it was over 1,000 shows.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Now the audition.
Yeah.
Now, when you did this for the whole room and some of the Four Seasons are in there, and I mean, like, what is that like? What is the energy in that room for the performer?
I think it's no different from any other audition. I mean, the fact that Frankie and Bob were actually in the room, I mean, that's kind of a cool story, but I think it's still the same thing, which is that the science of that pressure, having all of those eyeballs turned on you. It's people who have stage fright, right? There's two kinds of people in this world. There are people who activate when they have that energy, and there's people who shut down when they have that energy. I activate when I have that energy. When I walk into a room and I have to audition in that sense, and there's all of these eyeballs, I activate. I know how to put on a show. Doesn't mean I don't do bad auditions. I've done a lot of bad auditions, but um, it's the same thing when you go on stage. It's that feeling of people staring at you, waiting for you to do something. What it activates in me is I have control over you. I have control over what you're going to feel and what you're going to do. It goes back to what I was feeling in my bedroom growing up. And so for me, it's my favorite thing in the world. But doesn't mean I don't get nervous in auditions and things like that. It's just that it is an activation for me.
Do you have any advice for people? I mean, young performers or nothing. There's nothing that you just. I mean, in terms of like auditioning.
No, no, I don't, because it's either your thing or you're not. There's nothing I can say or that anyone can say that's going to make someone better. The only thing I can say is like that stereotypical thing of they're always looking for you. They're always looking for you to be the best version of you. If you have to, if you're spending time, there's that awful thing when you sit in an audition room for musical theater and you sit outside in the waiting room. You can hear the person before you. Or it's even worse if you can hear a couple people before you. You know, if you got there early or something, or they're running behind, and you hear like 5 people just like being brilliant. You're like, I don't know, and you try to. All of a sudden, you're like, I should be more like that person because they got a laugh on that line, or they got, I think the looking sideways in auditions in your career, it'll kill you. Doesn't mean you don't do it. Doesn't mean you don't naturally go there. But looking sideways and trying to make yourself something other than what you are is the killer.
And looking sideways, you mean try and focus on the straight and narrow and
I
look
mean,
ahead.
my career as an actor, I've been very successful as an actor. Doesn't mean that I don't look at the colleagues in my industry who are working and they got that part or they got that show. I'm up against some of my dearest friends for parts sometimes. Doesn't mean I don't get jealous. Doesn't mean I don't curse them out in my in my private alone time. I mean, it's part of it, but I think wasting too much time doing that is the killer. But in terms of advice, no, it's just like be that. Again, it's this age-old line about advice, like be the best version of yourself. It couldn't be more true because it's going to be the thing that gets you the job.
So Jersey Boys. Okay,
Yeah.
this is just incredible. Okay, so you do Jersey Boys, and then you start to get some interest you get some TV roles. So
Yeah.
Gossip Girl.
Yeah.
And then you do a national tour of Anything Goes.
Yes.
To 2012 to 2013.
I did, and that was a show that, funny enough, I had done at Staged Row Manor. I played a different part, at summer camp, and then I did it again in the tour. Yes, yep.
And then 2013 comes around,
And I got
and you got cancer.
yes.
You're diagnosed with cancer.
Was that not part of your notes? Were you leaving that part out?
That's nope. That is part of my notes.
Oh, okay.
I mean, and part of the thing about this is that is how outspoken you are about it,
Yeah.
and how you use that diagnosis. And thank God, like you are in the clear, and it's obviously now we're
Yes.
almost a decade, but it's definitely after the 5 year kind of thing of where they give you the diagnosis of like looking good, looking clear, knock on wood and all that, but you've used that. You didn't shy away from the press of like sharing it publicly to say, hey, get yourself checked.
I waited until I had I waited until Madam Secretary was kind of up and running so that I could use my voice and get attention for it to try to do some good with it. I didn't talk about it at first, but yeah, when I got diagnosed, that was kind of a weird period in my life. I had been fired from Jersey Boys in Las Vegas because I was misbehaving, but I blame it on being 22 years old and single and living in Las Vegas. But I was fired, moved to LA, did my TV work, trying to make things happen in LA. I did lots of random, the TV stuff, and then I would do random things like I wrote and helped direct a show that went on to play in Vegas and technically still does when shows open again. I
Which one is that?
It's called Vegas the Show.
Oh, neat.
So I worked on that. I mean, it goes back to what I was saying before, just like do stuff, like stay in it. And Yeah, and I started songwriting. I started, doing a lot of things in the songwriting world, and reigniting that part of my creative brain. I did whatever I could, and then I did the tour of Anything Goes. And I was a week after I ended the tour of Anything Goes. I was diagnosed with testicular cancer, and did chemo and did the whole thing, and my first audition back after after chemo was they said they were doing a movie. Well, they had right before I left for Anything Goes, they announced that they were doing a movie of Jersey Boys, and it was with a different director, different studio, and I got an audition for it, and they called me in.
That's next in my notes, by the way. We're
Okay, all right.
oh, definitely the Jersey Boys film in 2014.
Well, but here's the story. Right before I left for Anything Goes, they were holding auditions for the movie because it was with it was with a director and a studio, and I had my audition for it. I got an audition for it, and it was with the casting director, and I did my audition, and I got a call about a week later, and they said, "Yeah, not right for the role." I said, "I'm not right for the role that I played for 3 years," and
Touring and in Vegas.
that's right. And then I let so whatever let it go, and then I
Oh, and by the way, Bob Gaudio's literally cast you.
correct. Um, uh, and so by the way, thank you for saying cast, because there are people out there who now say casted. I know there are people, and it's like an accepted word now. I went on the road with Anything Goes. I had heard at some point that version of the movie went into turnaround. It fell apart, and they were not going to do the movie anymore. And then while I was recovering from chemo and that whole thing, I remember reading a story that said Clint Eastwood had now decided to direct the movie. It had been picked up. Clint Eastwood's going to do it, and
Not a movie I would think Clint Eastwood would end up directing.
that's what I said. And it landed at Warner Brothers, and they decided to not use the film script that was written by John Logan. They went back to Rick Ellis and Marshall Brickman's stage script and really adapted that for this film version. And uh, and I had my audition for it, and I had one audition. That was it. No callbacks, no nothing, and got the part. And there we were making the movie of Jersey Boys that fall, that late summer fall of 2013, 14,
2013.
2013, and
Came out in 2014, right?
right, June. I want to say June 20th, 2014, and is when it came out. Yeah, and it was making it was surreal because I always say it was like there's the scene in the bowling alley and on stage it's, a flat sign that comes down that says bowling alley, and here we were in Pasadena in a bowling alley.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was surreal. It was like a virtual reality version of the show. And I got to do the movie with many of the, my Jersey Boys family that I had done the show with. So it was a real thrill, and came out the next summer. And in between the making the film and it coming out, that pilot season, that February of 2014, I had an audition for Madam Secretary, which goes
So
back.
you're on the Jersey Boys films happening, and you're going to the audition.
The Jersey Boys film had just wrapped production about 2 months prior. We were waiting for it to come out. And I get an audition for Madam Secretary, just another audition in pilot season. But I remember reading the script, instantly loving it, and instantly feeling like this is a no-brainer. This is like on television already. This feels like,
The character is very
yeah.
you.
Well, it became very me, yes. But
Became very you, but yeah.
I mean, the script itself, it was like, this is why would you not want this? And we knew that Taya Leone was attached, and it was like, this is going to be great. And it was being casted. It was being cast by a man named Mark Sachs, who was an early employee at Stage Door Manor,
Oh wow.
way before my time, but was Michael Larson's best friend until the day he died. And Mark had first discovered me when I was 13 or 14 years old. He's been a casting director for the majority of his career, and he would always come up to camp every summer to do a workshop with kids, but also to meet kids. And he's really guided a lot of careers. And I remember him said to me at 16 or 17 years old, he said to me, like, "Oh, we'll get you a TV show one day. We'll get you a show." And it took, a decade or so.
Yeah.
Well, just about a decade, because I guess I was 27 when I got Madam Secretary. But Mark gave me my first series regular,
It's
and
all about the people you meet.
it's all about the people you meet, and especially at theater camp. And
But also who you are and the impression you make. I mean, you can meet someone, but
oh, for sure, there are people who will never talk to me again. I mean,
right.
don't get me wrong, I have burned bridges, but some are hanging on, and those people have been very good to me. And Madam Secretary changed my life. The,
Well, before we jump to Madam Secretary, I do want to talk about the just Jersey Boys film a little bit.
sure,
And I mean, it's so awesome. This photo, it's just like
PowerPoint going on.
so great
Yeah,
of you and Clint and the whole cast.
yeah,
And I mean, the scene where your character Bob Gaudio comes in and plays piano, and the way that that's directed, and the way that that comes together. I mean, obviously, like it's pulling from the musical,
yeah.
and how everyone starts singing. I mean, it gives you chills. Um, what what was that like to be a Hollywood set? I'm assuming most of it's shot in L.A.
Most of it in LA. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, this is like you've done some TV, but
yeah.
this is the biggest. This is the biggest thing you've done up until this point.
It's all because of Clint. He was smart enough to recognize, why would we hire new people to, you know, do these roles when there's a whole slew of actors who have played these parts for years, and who don't really need a rehearsal. What they need is to put a camera on them. And Clint gave great advice. He said, "I hired you for what you do, not for what you could potentially do." It was surreal. I mean, there are some like things I don't know that I'll ever have again in my life. I mean, when I was living in LA in Studio City, I lived just off of Riverside. And the gate to the Warner Brothers lot in Burbank was on Riverside. I literally would get in my car, I would drive straight for 8 minutes.
Oh, you still had to get in your car though. It
Yes,
wasn't
that is
like
true. The gates would open, and I would pull into my parking spot underneath the Warner Brothers tower. It was like the greatest. It was so Hollywood and so like that
yeah.
thing for it was wild. It was wild, and making it was like We made it in like 31 days or something like that.
Wow.
It was really quick, and it wasn't like in the theater where you're seeing the set be built. You're in a rehearsal room for a while. It was like you would show up, you get your call sheet, you'd show up to wherever it said to go to do this scene, and you'd go there, and you're like, oh, we're in a club, and now we have to
Mhm.
make like you do a show, you're on that set rehearsing for a long time. In a movie, you don't see that set until that day if it's an on location thing, right? You're not seeing them build it or anything like that. You just show up and you have to like kind of create your world and do your thing. It was wild. It was absolutely wild. I mean, having done the show for 3 years was obviously a big help. Also, the script didn't change a lot. Um, it changed my life. It absolutely changed my life, and it's kind of the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, Jersey Boys is also because it's a musical. When I would do my concerts, I've had this kind of side hobby hustle of doing these. I love performing in concert, and I love putting on these shows, and a lot of it being the music of Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, and it's because I'm so associated with that music. So it's given me a career that has gone on long after the making of the movie, and it's really fun being a part of people's lives in that way.
And so the film is wrapping up, and you get the audition for Madam Secretary,
Yeah,
and we happen to have footage of the audition. I Are we allowed to show that?
yeah.
Oh, okay, fantastic. Okay.
Hey, who's in there with her?
I'm not at liberty to say.
I got a tip from security that's the director of the CIA.
Can I confirm or deny?
Just so you know, there's a tradition of sharing information in the outer office.
Oh, well, in that case, I heard you two tongued in the supply closet at the Christmas party, and it's been a little awkward ever since because you were both with other people.
Okay, there's something I'd like to share. Is she gonna fire us? Because I need to get my resume in order. Blake, I'm Roxanne Majidi. I'm an appointment with the secretary.
Right, the secretary is busy. Let's all grab a seat and check our Twitter accounts.
I mean, you think about what it takes to get a part on a TV show, to get the pilot, to have the pilot picked up, to have the back, what is it, back nine? I think it's the
Yeah,
back
back nine.
nine.
Yeah.
So I haven't done it in a while. The back nine ordered, and then like to get renewed for a second season.
Yeah.
For that process to go through 5 times to last for
Yep.
6 seasons, talk about take it for granted. As it's happening, you're like, oh my God. When I look back on how lucky I was, that is, I was on CBS Sunday nights as like the anchor show for 7 years. That is
Yeah.
crazy to me. So very, very, very lucky. And obviously, because of its life on Netflix and things like that, people just discovering the show for the first time, especially during quarantine and lockdown, has been, I mean, it's just been great.
And obviously one of the things that resonates with me is your character's coming out story,
Yeah.
and I think like it's so nuanced, and the way that it plays out, and that one episode where you do come out to Tay Leone's character, bye, I'm bye. Goodbye. That whole thing. I mean, it's such a great scene. It had me crying, honestly, for the beauty of it, and the nuanced performance of that. And as an actor, and also the story with your partner that goes back and forth, and then eventually you're going to get married, and you introduce him to your parents. I mean, there's just so many great moments of your character's story there. And obviously when you're in and you're taking care of business, and then there's that backstory. What is that like to be able to tell that story as well? I mean, obviously people seeing these stories, even, I mean, 10 years ago, when, I mean, the show started in 2014. Okay, so that's not exactly 10 years, but to tell that kind of story.
Oh, listen, it still hasn't been. We still are the only one who've done it. That I can only take so much credit. That was a monologue that was written by a writing staff and they wrote it beautifully. Um, and then I had to memorize it and do it. I mean, I think I did 2 takes of it or something like that. And that was it. We filmed it. I think we had like an hour to film it at in the freezing cold in Brooklyn one night, and we did it. And I didn't put much thought into it other than just act the words, just live in the words. It was when it aired and my social media blew up that night. Talk about visibility. It's so important to tell these stories. That's the reason why, because I got DMs from people in, I live in India. I've never, but I feel safe on coming out now. You've given me the courage to come out. I mean, it was so wild to receive these messages, and I'm talking hundreds that came that night or the week after, and still occasionally come again from people who are watching the show to this day, or just seeing the show for the first time. It's a weird feeling because I'm an actor. Like I, I it wasn't like I did something for myself and it affected these people. I was an actor. I was saying words that I was proud to stand behind, but to receive that attention as if I was that guy saying that, it was it's a lot to take in. And not just about that, it's just a lot to take in when people associate you with a part and you're loved for that part. You've been a part of, you're in their living rooms every week. You they
They kind of think you are that character. Is
Yeah,
that
but I don't
kind
mean
of,
it that way. I just mean like there's a like they own that part more than I do because they've
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
created what that character did, on the days of the week that we don't see him on the show or what he's done. I didn't create that. They've run with, the fan fiction of it all that we all
Mm-hmm.
to a degree with our favorite characters. Um, so it's just a lot to take in that people are my face associated with that idea and concept. And like you said, it was a time in the world where we were gearing up. So many people thought for our first female president, and this was kind of a easy way into that. We were living in the glory of the Obama years, and then
Yeah, post gay marriage. Yep,
right,
yep.
right.
Yeah.
So it was all so good, and then when Trump came in, our show became um, a sigh of relief on Sunday nights because of the chaos that was going on in the government. Our show became, a lot of episodes got figured out by the end of the hour, and buttoned up. And
Yellow, double pink pages, double blue
exactly,
pages.
exactly right. And so people turn to us for, I think, for relief in that way. So our show has a very, I think, important legacy, and I think that our show is, I stand behind it, and I'm so proud of it, and I'm so in full disclosure, I miss it every day. I miss going to work. I miss the 5 a.m. wake ups. I miss that. I can't wait to have that again. But I also know full well that you can't ever recreate it. Um, uh, it was such a special time. It was it was just glorious. And but I'm glad it lives on net.
Yeah. I mean, yes, I mean, it's even impacting people. It's impacting me now. And I think that thank you for, telling that story. Thank you to the writers for telling this story as someone who had to come out once and it was really hard to do, to see those stories told
Yeah,
on TV in a very public way on a main broadcast channel. It's not
that was a
on
thing.
Logo.
That was a
It's,
thing.
I mean, it's on CBS. It's on a cornerstone of American culture.
It was all.
These are important.
It was a male character coming out in a way that a lot of times when we see people coming out either as gay or bisexual, mostly gay in the media, it's usually they were forced out or something happened or they're cheating on their wife with a guy, or it's some like sexual aggression thing that they pay a hooker to do their bad deeds on the side. Like it's
Wait, you're not supposed to do that. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
wow.
I'm just kidding.
But I think that it had never been seen that someone had come out voluntarily and in a way that was just because they said, I felt I needed to do this so that we could be closer as
Yeah.
people who work together. Um,
And that hug between you and Tay Leone, it's just you, and it's real because
Well, she was hugging me
you
at that
really.
moment. She was hugging me at that moment because I had gotten through the whole monologue once without forgetting the lines, and that's what it was at that moment. But it was no, and she really is that person. I mean, there's no one. Uh, the reason why that set worked as beautifully as it did was because of her. The number one on the call
Yep.
sheet is going to set the tone for everything, and she was, um, you know, you don't get better than Taya Leone. I started Madam Secretary when I was 27 years old, and I never looked up. I mean, and really, I hadn't stopped working from Jersey Boys through then, and all of a sudden, it was the beginning of 2020. I was like, well, now what? And
Mhm.
I didn't get any parts during pilot season, and when the shutdown happened, they had announced that Broadway was going to be shut down for 30 days, and I didn't know. I consider myself part of the Broadway community. I have I've done one.
We unfortunately we skipped over Waitress. You were on Broadway with Kat McPhee in Waitress. I don't know how we circumnavigated that, but that was in there, and that was June to August 2018.
Yes, I
You
was
did it. You did it kind of in between your Madam Secretary seasons. Is that right?
the first time I did Waitress, the summer of 2018. I did it at the same time. It overlapped. We were filming, so like
That's crazy.
that episode that Hillary Clinton did, Madam
Oh,
Secretary, which was like
yeah.
an opener of season 5, I think. That was the only day that I had to miss Waitress to do the show. Every other day, they worked it out. So I would film Madam Secretary all day long and then run to the theater, and I did Waitress at night.
Were you tired?
Oh,
That's a joke.
it was
I mean,
terrible idea in retrospect. I would get to the theater, I would be like, I mean, I was up at 4:30 in the morning filming, and then I had to go
oh my
to the show
gosh.
at 8 o'clock at night, where I had to like sing and dance and lift the Cat McPhee up, and I was like, you don't trust me to do any of this right now. But it was great. I mean, Waitress, it was the greatest. But I care.
You're part of the Broadway community. I'm sorry.
I care very much about it. That is really my community. And when Broadway was down for 30 days, only 30 days at that point, I thought we have to do something for the Actors Fund because they're going to be depleted with everyone looking for money to pay for the groceries. I mean, I've been broke and had to turn to the Actors Fund before. It's an incredible organization. And I called Rosie O'Donnell. Actually, I DM'd her on Twitter. We knew each other in passing a little bit, and I said, "I have an idea. Can we put together something?" I knew Rosie. The Rosie O'Donnell show when I was growing up was everyone's ticket to Broadway, and she was so impactful on my life, and she's Broadway's greatest, champion. And I called her and said, "Oh, let's do something. Let's do something. A one night reboot of the Rosie O'Donnell show." And she said, "If you put it together, sure, I'll do it." She wrote me back like right then, and
From a Twitter DM.
from a Twitter DM, she wrote me
That's amazing.
10 minutes later, and I said, "Cool, let's do it." And I was like, "How the hell do I do this?"
Now what?
And I called Lori McCreary, who was the producer of Madam Secretary, and she's has a background in the tech world, so she helped me kind of point me in the right direction. She got me connected to YouTube. YouTube helped me figure it out. I partnered with Broadway.com. We put it all together in 9 days. 9 days later, we did the show from this very desk that I'm sitting at right now. And I haven't really left this desk since then. This was March
Mhm.
2nd, 2020. And we did it I called my friend Craig Burns at Bernie Telsey Casting and said, "Will you help me just cast this, like get all the talent?" And we had like 5 people at first, and then we had everyone. Then we couldn't stop. It was every Broadway TV name, like everyone showed up. We raised $700,000 in one night in like 3 hours on YouTube. Just a live stream, Rosie just talking to her friends about what are you up to and lockdown and theater and it was I woke up the next morning. It was reviewed in the New York Times. It
Wow.
was everywhere. It was crazy. It was like we did it off of a $49 piece of software called StreamYard. It was
Yep.
it was nothing. There was nothing to it. I mean, me and Paul and the team at Broadway.com we worked our butts off, but there wasn't much considering what you and I do now. It was nothing, and it changed my world. And I think right after the Rosie event, I got a call from my friend Benj Pasek, who Oscar-winning, Tony-winning writer of Greatest Showman and Dear Evan Hansen and La La Land, and his business partner, a wonderful actor named Adam Cantor, and they text me and they said, "Are you Jewish?" I said, "I mean, kind of. I'm half Jewish, yeah, half Jewish." And they were like, "We want to put together a virtual Seder." And I was like, "Okay." And I had some like phone calls and talking about it, and we started to put it together. And I said we should do it as this. I said we should call it the Saturday Night Seder. They kind of ran with that, and
Great,
um,
great name.
I mean, Lorne Michaels thought of it first, but yeah. But then their team Benj's team kind of went off on writing it and creating it, and they had this incredibly talented group of people that were like just creating these hilarious ideas, and we got an incredible cast of people to do it, and we didn't know what it was going to be. We truly didn't know what was going on. We were just kind of like, let's just start filming stuff and putting it together, and we weren't sure how it was all going to come together. I think it was the Friday night before.
Thursday.
Was it the Thursday?
Yeah.
It was the Thursday night. No, 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 no. I think it was. Didn't you guys do it overnight?
Well, I think I mean you and I met on that show,
Right. And
Saturday Night
the way
Seder.
I remember the story was I got a call. We got a call that basically someone who was involved with, who was it that you know?
Well, my friend Corey Crane knows Allie, Benj's
Allie.
assistant.
Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
Allie, Benj's assistant, got
I was told I was like compiling like a little piece. Like can you edit video? That was the question. I was like, yes, that's what we do.
right. And I would just remember,
Little did I know what it was going to be, and yeah, it was an overnight. We basically had to do an overnight edit. Yeah.
basically, I got a text that was like, we were trying to put together the show. It was crazy. It was all coming together truly at the last minute. I got a text that said, hop on this Zoom call. There are these two guys that Allie knows who are going to help us put this together. Because we were working on the show and we watched like a loose compilation of what we had so far on Friday morning. And it was like, oh God, it's terrible. Like, it's not anything. And it wasn't coming together with the resources that we had at that point. You and Garrett and your company came into the picture, and all of a sudden I ended up on a Zoom call with you and Garrett. And I remember thinking that Garrett's virtual background on his Zoom call was his actual office. I'm like, oh wow, he's sitting in like a giant.
Yeah, he used that for quite some time.
That was a virtual background, by the way. And basically, I remember someone, I think it was Benj, like pitching to you, we have this show, we don't really know what it is quite yet, but we need someone to kind of compile it and make it all happen. It airs tomorrow night on Tasty, the food channel that BuzzFeed owns. It's going out to 20 million subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys were like, I remember looking, because it was an overnight. You guys had to compile it overnight. I remember looking at you and Garrett's faces, and you guys were like, I mean,
Oh, I said no at first. I did, and and it's really Garrett, a testament to Garrett, because Garrett, I said, I'm tired. I can't. I don't think I could do it overnight tonight. And he's like, I'll do it. So I mean,
we woke up
we did it.
morning at 7 a.m. and there was a show, and it was delivered to BuzzFeed at around 1 p.m. Isn't there some story where somebody had to jump, like a bike messenger had to actually bring it to BuzzFeed?
Probably. I mean, we've done.
There was something regarding they couldn't do it over the internet, so they had to like bring a flash drive or something, and it aired that night, and it was the biggest. The Rosie one was the first of all of these virtual events. The Seder is the one that like people thought, oh, this can be something, and we raised $2 million for the CDC Foundation that night.
Incredible. I mean, it really was a good show. And the writing,
Oh,
the performances, Jason Alexander, Josh Groban. I mean, the names in that Saturday Night Seder lineup
it was,
were incredible.
and that was the one that with having done the Rosie thing and the Seder, my phone, if
Yeah.
it was exploding the morning after the Rosie thing, it was really exploding after the Seder thing.
You start a production company, and it's called 6W Entertainment. Can you tell us why?
6W was the apartment that I grew up in Chelsea.
Amazing.
It all goes back to
And
that. And it goes back
and
to, I think, listen, virtual events, when we were starting, we didn't know what it was. I mean, it was, I think the third show was the UNICEF Won't Stop show, which was
mhm.
massive. That was Sting and Sheryl Crow and Rod Stewart and Cher and Pink. And this is the third production I've ever done, in the virtual world. It just kind of happened. And it goes back to, I'm not kidding, it goes back to the nerdy kid who was looking at and learning the liner notes of all these albums. It was when I said, okay, we need to focus on this moment about UNICEF's vaccines or whatever it is. We need a song to connect us there. Okay, well, Sting should sing Fragile. It's on that album. He should do the version that my A&R brain, for lack of a better term, going back to that kid I was in 6W, that's kind of what I think makes the virtual productions that you and I do different from a virtual gala that a lot of people do, which is that what we try to do is create a show that people actually want to watch, as opposed to like I have to sit through another virtual gala, and connecting arts and entertainment to it in some way. I say all this having learned now what it is that I'm doing. We didn't know what we were doing even when we did the UNICEF show. Basically, what we have found is there's many nonprofits out there who, I think like all nonprofits, fundraising is like 90% of what they do. And they have a whole departments for it. They have whole staffs for it. There are separate nonprofits that just raise money for other nonprofits. It's a world that I knew nothing about. And so much of that is donor events, galas, thank you, whatever it may be. And it's all stuff that couldn't be done due to COVID. And what I wasn't trying to capitalize on anything. I wasn't trying to like, oh, here we can take advantage of it. It was just, we couldn't stop the calls from coming in. Once people had seen us do one thing, they said, can you do it for us? Can you do it for us? Because people needed to fundraise. But because of being stuck at home, they had to fundraise in a completely different way, that content, more so than experience, became important. How do you storytell about the cause? How do you storytell about the cause, the organization? How do you raise money? And how do you entertain all at the same time? All of a sudden, by doing these virtual events or these whatever it is that we are doing, one thing we noticed, a lot of the feedback I have gotten is that people are aware of the organization in a way that they never have been. I had people after we did the Carousel of Hope show say to me, I've been going to that show for 30 years in person in LA. This was the first time I really understood where the money was going, and I could see the money at work. Because when they show, if you're in a ballroom and you're at some event and they show a B-roll video or some story package video about the organization,
You're half paying attention.
half paying attention. That's where you check your phone. It's where you go to the bar. It's where you run to the bathroom. You miss kind of like why you're there. And all of a sudden you're sitting at your computer, you finish the performance, and it goes right into a video about the organization, something they're focused on. You have an opportunity. I always tell these organizations, you have an opportunity to not only bring in new people, but more importantly, re-engage people that are now donating to you simply for a tax write-off. You are re-engaging people to get involved with your organization and actually care and be passionate about it, because they're finally understanding what it is that you do.
You had an article in New York Times, you've had articles in Variety, you've had lots of great press over the events you've done. And I think that anybody who wants to make a virtual event, if they're not calling 6W as the first,
Sure.
and
Yes.
hold on, 6W is a lot more than virtual events.
We've done a series of panel discussions for organizations. So it's not just a one night event, but it's a rollout. We did a PSA. We did the UNICEF show that we did, MSNBC picked up and aired. So it's been a lot. It's been a lot. We in doing the Clive Davis pre-Grammy galas, that has been
Arguably one of your largest shows.
in both name value and in length of actual show. Yes,
Yeah.
they were
Big
5 hours
show,
long.
big show. And
Yeah,
there's a part two.
and there's a part two. Yeah, and again, working with heroes of mine, and also working with other heroes of mine that I've gotten to know over the past year. We've done a lot of work with John Legend, and I got to kind of actually direct his performance on the Grammy show, and kind of working with the cameraman who was in his house over Zoom and kind of virtually directing it. I mean, it's been it's been wild. But I ended up on a Zoom with Joni Mitchell. I've ended up on Zooms with Obama. I had
I'm curious who you haven't worked with is actually less people than who you have worked with. If people could name a name, it's kind of like 6 degrees of Erich Bergen.
sure.
If you've, I mean,
W. It's
someone connects to you through like you could just say a name, and it's like, oh yeah, he was on an Erich Bergen show.
well, it's so funny. I'll get calls. I mean, I remember when it was right after the Saturday Night Seder, and I got a call one day, and I picked up, and it didn't look like a scam number, and I picked up, and I go, "Eh, hello," and I hear a voice go, "Is this Eric Bergen?" I said, "Yes," and the other voice says, "Oh, hi, it's Bette Midler. I got your number from." I was like, "Huh? What?"
She just cold calls.
And it's been a year of that. Um, it's been a year of working with truly with heroes. Clive Davis, it's Clive Davis. It's the biggest name in the music industry. Truly one of my heroes. He calls me a few times a day as we're working on the show to talk through ideas. I think the best part about all this is that they always say, "Don't meet your heroes. You're going to let them down." Like, these guys are everyone that we've worked with, especially like the bigger the name, the nicer they are, the cooler they are, the more fun we've had. And it's been weird to have your heroes ask my opinion. That's
Mhm.
that's a weird thing for me. Um, but it goes back to what I learned about walking into audition room. Make a choice. Don't don't not have an opinion. Be something. You're either going to be wrong or you're going to be right, but it's so much better than saying, you know, um,
And there's the advice. Even though you were reticent to give it, we got it. So, all right. So, Eric, as we kind of wrap up this amazing interview, I mean, this is like an incredible, incredible, uh, story. It really is, and it's a story of perseverance. It's a story of just like continuing to create, no matter what. It's a story of passion, your passion for this type of stuff, and figuring it out. And it's a story of innovation. What is next? Like what happens? I mean,
I could,
the world will open
yeah,
someday.
uh-huh.
So what's it gonna what do you want to do?
I'd like a nap. Um,
That's good.
I
Sorry, that's not happening, but
I would love to get into the narrative, television space. I mean, I think what I've loved developing is this social impact side of all the stuff we've done together. The work that we've done in the nonprofit world and helping those organizations get their messages out through the arts. through these events, and helping them tell their stories. And that's something that I want to keep going. And you know, I have an incredible team of people that have said yes, thank God, to working with me to help me. People who are way smarter in that world, and that's great. And I want that to keep going. I think I also want to focus on getting back into television,
Mhm.
into the narrative, developing scripts, and maybe some docu reality type shows. Um, I'm interested in making things that are, I mean, obviously always interested in what's new and the hot new thing. Just, from a business perspective, it's so great to know what's going on and keep your finger on the pulse at all times. Again, just from a business perspective. But I do go back to the base of arts and entertainment, which it has to be good, and for it to be good, there does have to have a true sense of timelessness to it. And so I would love to get into some, great scripts, great writing. I think it always begins with great writing. Um, I don't know what's to do. The music world is so splintered at this point that I'm not sure what side of the music world I love working in, but I do know that, I mean, listen, everything I do has a music component to some degree. I mean, you and we go back and forth about just what song to pick for the opening credits for some of these things. Um, so I think what's next is just developing this as a production company and working on things that I really believe in, and working with people that I really want to work with. But it's to keep this side of it going. I mean, I ended up with a production company accidentally. I ended up with a production company because the work was coming at me and I couldn't keep up with it alone. So I had to bring in other people. And look, we have a production company. There's
Mhm.
no, it was an accident that I was, turns out, ready and prepared for. And, uh, you know, that is luck is what happens when opportunity meets preparation, and that's what this is. um um and it's been a wild ride, and we're about to hit 1 year of
Mhm.
this.
Isn't that interesting?
I mean,
I think we're on show 40,
we are on show
between 40 and 45.
we're on project.
56. 56 projects.
Yeah,
I mean, hello. That is prolific. So, um Eric,
yeah,
all I have to say, and this is from the bottom of my heart, is thank you for, working with us. You've kept you've sustained a lot of people over the last year that you may not realize, but your projects take a lot of people to put together. And it's just like it's like any movie or film or anything like that. There are people that are making a living off of putting these things together and helping make them. I mean, just thank you for continuing. I mean, the work is coming in because I think you do really, really, really good work, and it's a premium quality, and you have amazing taste. And I know you're gonna go on, you're gonna get another TV show, you're gonna kind of go on, you're gonna go direct something, and 6W will have other people, but you're always gonna have a place in. I know you like to have a finger on the pulse of what's happening. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for, first of all, for being part of this interview, being part of this show, and also the past year of all the incredible work that we've gotten to do with you.
that's very sweet. This seems like an opportune time to ask you, if is it possible that you can work late tonight, because I just got an email that we have a client who needs something like in 4 hours.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. How is that, Eric?
It's me.
How are you, Eric?
I'm good. We got through
What
it.
can we do? Can we build a statue of gold in your honor and put it on Hollywood and Vine or Broadway?
Congratulations!
You can see I have forgotten my tuxedo. I'm a little underdressed.
Isn't it dumb that we all can't be together?
An inspiring group of creative giants.
I knew one thing. I was going to make a career out of music.
Well, let's call it Saturday night. And I said, no, it's called staying alive.
Thank you for having me.
I will never forget that night.
So many people were watching.
That was amazing.
Mark Johnston and Erich Bergen, thank you for all your hard work and your passion. You were truly a joy to work with.
Great. Again.
It was very, very, very well done, and you could see the artist's love for Clive and Clive for the artist.
The rest is history, as I say.
This is very exciting.
What? Thanks so much for having me.
Well, hold on a second.
Okay, wow.
Hey!
You never disappoint.
You get gas and special tickets.
You ended up raising $600,000 for the Actors Fund. How does that all happen?
Erich Bergen, who's a wonderful actor, he's been on Broadway. He's also was in Madam's Secretary. He called me up and said, listen, you don't have to do anything but sit in front of your computer. I'll handle everything. We'll get all these Broadway people to come on, and you just do it from your garage.
Let's start with our center square.
What about me? I haven't been asked one question.
I think him a great fool.
When we get to that single cam, just give it one more beat.
Politics, politics.
Mr. President.
Hey, Eric.
How are you?
When I talk about hope, I'm never talking about blind optimism. It's always the belief in the human spirit and the capacity for us to overcome hard times.
Eric, are you doing all of this from your home?
Yes, actually, here's my bed.
You have the right to vote by mail.
Bergen acts, sings, and during the pandemic has been raising millions of dollars for charities around the world from his bedroom.
Thank God for Erich Bergen to come in here and put on this virtual event for our community.
And you've totally pivoted in this new world.
Erich Bergen!
Hey. Well, Eric, we're so proud of you because you yourself have done so much to help so many people, and you've had some pretty famous, no big deal friends.
The things he is doing is fantastic.
Yeah.
Tonight, we are here to celebrate the life-saving work of city meals.
Nourishing both bodies and souls.
Providing music to help us all and America heal.
There's one great advantage to going virtual. Every seat has a terrific view.
I'm grateful to them as a concert choir.
I love New York. I love New York.
Can I just try that one more time?
I don't think so.
They say I'm difficult.
This is getting too weird.
You're the heart and soul of New York City.
'Cause I'm in a New York state of mind.
New Yorkers always rise.
Racial healing is incredibly important, and now more than ever, we have the opportunity to reconcile with our past racism and imagine a multiracial democracy.
People see, like a tape like George Floyd, and it offends your humanity, no matter who you are.
I think it starts with us caring about the outcomes of people who don't look like us.
Poison is the wind that blows from the north.
Just show up exactly as you are. Show up with your story. Show up with all of your empathy. Just show up.
At the heart of it, we're talking about gender justice.
An issue that I deeply care about, which is reproductive rights.
Financial privilege, there are class privileges.
When women are successful, they're able to invest in our families, in our communities.
She didn't just break glass ceilings. This woman tore the whole damn roof off.
I admire all of the work you've done.
Working around the world.
This lineup's amazing.
Wow, what a night.
Ladies and gentlemen, Stevie Wonder.
We are more alike, my friend, than we are unalike.
Great. One more.